Fox News Podcasts presents the Bret Baier Podcast with Fox News Chief Political Anchor Bret Baier.
At least 3 soldiers who died during the D-Day invasion and thought to be missing in action have been identified this last year. Tonight, we take a look at their stories and honor their sacrifice. Nearly 73,000 U.S. troops landed in Normandy on June 6, 1944. More than 2,500 were killed or were missing in action. The Defense Prisoner of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency has since identified 7 of those missing soldiers. 3 were named in the last year. Are there still others who have yet to be identified?
Hundreds. The case of those 3 soldiers, they were part of a landing craft on June 6th.
Army Corporal Julius Wolfe, Army Sergeant John Herrick, and Army Tech 4 Elmo Hartwick were all part of the 149th Engineer Battalion on D-Day. They boarded the same landing craft headed for Omaha Beach. But the soldiers would never make it to battle. The vessel struck a mine as it was hit by artillery fire. The craft exploded, killing around 200 on board. The 3 soldiers' remains were buried as unknowns at 4 different graves in Normandy American Cemetery. How difficult is it to identify in the aftermath of D-Day? It was a massive invasion.
Part of the challenge is differentiating the remains, because as you can imagine, the chaos after the war, obviously the ones they could identify have been back home since the 1940s. The ones that are still missing are the ones we're looking for.
The 4 graves were exhumed in 2021 so scientists could analyze the DNA. How has technology today helped us identify someone who was killed more than 80 years ago?
What used to be a sample this size now can be done with your pinky finger thumbnail. And if we have a family reference sample with which to compare the remains against, DNA technology has advanced in incredible ways.
So I assume that these families are anxious to try to find, so they are cooperative in all this.
Very much so, but with World War II, Congress didn't give it to the Department of Defense until 2010. And so we're playing catch up. Again, developing the historical references, the research with which to be able to pursue certain cases.
We'll hear more after this.
2 years after their remains were exhumed, officials were able to positively identify the 3 men killed on board the landing craft.
One of them, and this is a great story, Emporia, Kansas, 19 years old. He will be buried on Veterans Day 2024, which would have been his 100th birthday.
Wow, that's amazing.
Sergeant John Herrick.
And so for that town and that family, they're coming out.
En masse.
Corporal Julius Wolfe was buried in his hometown of Liberal, Missouri in April. A memorial service will be held for Tech 4 Hartwick in Onaga, Kansas at a later date. Many from World War II are already buried overseas in cemeteries. What often happens after those individuals are identified?
Families are given the choice to either inter the remains back at the cemetery where they were interred as an unknown, or bring them back home.
When you find and piece together all of this, what does it mean for the families?
These families go through life with a void of heart and mind. They know their loved one died in combat, but not having that certainty of those remains leaves an uncertainty that it exacerbates their grieving. And so oftentimes it's what we call generational grieving. It's passed down generation to generation. So you may be talking to family members that never met the service member, but they know everything about him or her from the standpoint that it's almost as if you're speaking to his mother.
So it means a lot.
Absolutely.
The Defense Prisoner of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency currently has a team in Normandy, France, searching for 3 missing airmen who were thought to have been shot down on D-Day. They're hoping to discover personal artifacts in the soil there, where the plane was likely shot down. We'll continue to look into this story.
I'm Bret Baier. We'll see you next time. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.